Well, welcome everybody to the Beard Bros podcast, Financing Your Cannabis Future, episode number 14. I can't believe we're through episode 14. Wow. Time goes by fast. So thank you so much to the Beard Bros Network and family. It feels like a family of people and cannabis experts and people who love the plant and love the industry, which is awesome. It just makes all of our jobs so much easier that we're in such a great industry. And so with that, we have a focus on the international landscape today. And I'm so happy to have two of my favorite ladies here. We have Heidi Whitman and we have Olivia. I was going to try to pronounce your last name again, but as soon as I get on camera, I can never say it. So I will let you lead with your introduction and what do you do?
Okay, I'm Olivia Ewenike. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the invitation and no problem for the pronunciation. I think I'm not even pronouncing it right. I have a very German way of saying it. So I'm a cannabis compliance and regulatory lawyer. I advise businesses that want to enter the German market and how to set up compliance structures in regulatory regard, licensing procedures. I work in the medicinal as well as the recreational field and industrial hemp. And yes, I'm doing this for several years. I have my own law firm and I'm very happy to bring my insights from the European market today into this podcast.
Thank you for being here to both of you, because I know it's much later where you are. So it's afternoon for me, but you're burning the midnight oil over there. So thank you. And Heidi, how about you?
Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for having us. I'm Heidi Whitman. I am based in the UK and have been the entire time within my cannabis professional work here for over 10 years. And I'm a global strategist. I help other companies internationalize, build bridges, and find strategic alliances to improve the nature of our business, to create governance that has not been initially implemented into our new industry, and fight the good fight so that people have choices for plant medicine. And I do that through a variety of different ways by interacting with a very large global network.
We love that. Actually, Heidi, would you like to talk about your very large global network?
Yes. So one of the things that I'm very proud of is I co-founded a group for women who are professionals in the industry called the EmpowHer Cannabis Society. This is one of my networks, and this network is composed of almost 890 women across 34 countries. Ghana recently joined the party. And this network is an incredible support structure because women were being dominated in this industry, and changing cultural, societal norms historically in business have been a very male-dominated industry when it comes to all businesses, from tech to finance. And cannabis, I feel like we can make a difference with equality and diversification. And so this has really shown, it's grown traction. It's 2 years old as of October. And I was recently in Iceland where there was equal representation of men and women on stage and in the audience. It was the first time I had seen that. When I started off in 15, I was the only woman I knew working in this space because no one quite understood it then, and it's changed. But stemming from that, the network that I developed professionally has just grown tenfold because we become recognized. People are curious. People want to talk to us. And then you start getting spotlights on stages and bringing women on stages whose voices might not have been heard otherwise. And that's something I'm very passionate about. So, and the rest is somewhat its history. It was an accident. I'm a friendly person. When I go to events, I want to meet everybody, and finding the bits and pieces that people do really have help form an incredible network across the globe of talent and people that are actually striving for the same common goals. And that's why there is a renaissance happening. And I think this is the new wave of cannabis, because the old way was, inflated valuations, poor infrastructure, and failures like left, right, and center. And those failures taught us what not to do quite quickly, because we were moving. Like 1 year in cannabis feels like 10. And being over here where we were nascent compared to the US, it's incredible what we can do when we collaborate, because there's room for everybody. So that's what this network has done for me. It's brought opportunities, and I'm incredibly grateful every day. And this is what drives me to get up every morning.
I love it. I love it. It's that passion that drives us. And how about you, Olivia? I know you're very well connected and you've been working on some things out there as well. So tell us a little bit more about yourself and also, any kind of networks that you have that are especially female women related.
Well, I would say on the one hand, I am also part of the EmpowHer Society. I'm part of the legal and ethical board there. So I've also been one of the first, or if not the first member of the EmpowHer group. I'm very proud of that right now, as it developed so beautifully. I can only recommend an association also. It has helped me a lot in this industry. For my part, I started in this industry, especially coming from the CBD and hemp side. I started as a criminal defense lawyer, defending this kind of cases, as we had a lot of uncertainties and difficulties in Germany in that regard. And then, yes, with the cannabis legalization, that was, of course, talked about and then went through the legislative procedure, etc. for a while. I started to have more and more followers and network from the recreational side at first, clubs, interested parties that came from that. Of course, also my specialization in narcotics criminal law helped. And therefore, I entered, I would say, a little bit from an unusual side or perspective into the market. And now, with time, I'm not only advising in the recreational field, as it is also a little bit difficult in Germany because the club scene and structure is complicated and only slowly developing, while the medical side and the pharma side is, of course, booming, one could say. I think we will see a little bit of balancing in the future between those two sides. Right now, it is very disbalanced. So yes, I advise now in the medical field, telemedicine, medicinal companies, medical companies, when it comes to compliance and licensing and all of that stuff. And unfortunately, not as much women as I wish are my clients. That is, I think, just the market right now, especially in the decision-making positions. I don't see as many women as I would like to. And of course, it is changing slowly, and groups like EmpowHer associations are very helpful to connect one another. But still, it is a very, very male-dominated industry, especially when it comes to C-level positioning. And therefore, most of the time, my clients are male, even though maybe I have one or the other female to talk to. It's most of the time male clients that I work with.
Here too in the US, so I would concur.
Let's change that.
Yeah.
We're already on the
Well, you both are changing it, so thank you so much for that. And thanks for creating a safe and prospering arena for us all. That's wonderful. And I look forward to seeing you ladies overseas. I met you a number of years ago. We've had so much fun going to conferences, talking about business, doing, fun side trips, and more to come. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, me too. Can't wait.
Yeah, me too. We're already making our plans. So
yes. Always.
We've been talking about internally, we've been talking about this idea of the global cannabis renaissance, and specifically, across the whole world, but our focus is in this on the US, on the UK and EU mainly, being from Germany and the UK, Heidi. So what does that mean, the global cannabis renaissance? How are you seeing this manifest over there?
Well, I can say that the difference in the way business is being run today is vast compared to, say, 2018, which wasn't that long ago. But again, cannabis years are like dog years. It's like +7. And when I first began, I entered into business, exiting one CBD company and then joining that force and a couple others thereafter. And they were operating in Switzerland, Colombia, and the UK, and the Channel Islands, and all of which did not have the right infrastructure. And the failures were tangible. You know, you could watch the way things were being operated as not a typical business, but more of a rush, and not looking at the fact this is a marathon game. And a lot of people expected returns immediately. And they also valued their companies way too much. I mean, the telephone numbers in 2 years are never going to happen, but they really thought so. And I don't think they understood the market that they were actually trying to sell to. And so now where I see it's a renaissance, those players that were advantageous or in a rush to grab as much as they could with greed and ego are no longer really standing in power positions anymore. I see more of a diversification of C-suites. I see women stepping up. I've seen the most successful women coming out of the US really giving us something to look up towards. But it's not just between women and men, it's how we work together. And I do know that there has been a lot of changes when it comes to the governance. I mean, when you don't have a CFO at all, when you're getting millions in investment, I mean, you're just setting yourself up for the fast track to failure, because the allocation of funds are so mishandled and the long game isn't planned. Exit strategies aren't thought of, but now they are. And the ancillary services are out there with experts like you and other people in the legal side, like Olivia, that can step up and become those third parties that will evaluate what's going on, because some people are too close, too in it, and also scrambling to try to be at that point vertical and doing everything. Everyone knows when you build a production house, it takes years for compliance and regulation to match with where you want to be when you want to start producing and selling. It's so misaligned. And I think now people are starting to realize strategic alliances are supportive, you know, working with others to make that vertical dream come true by having a stakeholder, diversifying your portfolio. And that's something that I see all the time. And we see a lot of mergers happening and acquisitions that are actually fruitful, and distressed companies getting help versus crashing. So I think this is what I mean by the changes that are occurring. It's not just in the UK, it's global. But I think we all kind of jumped in without that playbook and tried to make things happen. And now that the playbook is sort of getting written loosely, people that are in nascent regions like France, you know, they're looking at things like a non-flower medical market for a reason. It matches the illicit market's products, you know, looking at things to make it a little bit more sophisticated so we can get the confidence not only from prescribers, but from capital investors and also compliance experts, that they can show that we are actually institutional. We're not just a loose fitting industry. So that's what I see and feel daily.
Yes.
Well,
I agree.
Go ahead, Olivia. Yeah.
I would also say, like, for me, the global cannabis renaissance is really coming from prohibition. Yes, we've had prohibition over centuries. Now, it was always used as a political vehicle for different countries and different political parties to collect voters through that. Yes, and all of a sudden they need to somehow pivot, and they use the propaganda, of course, with stigmatization of consumers, of patients, etc. So now, how do you all of a sudden, within a very short period of time, pivot from this kind of narrative? Yeah, I mean, in Germany, we've had cannabis legalization, the medical cannabis legalization, since 2017. Of course, a very small, limited, restricted market back then. And that meant that basically cannabis was not really in the middle of the society from a legal point of view, because most of the time, practitioners would not prescribe it, or we had no insurance coverage, etc. And only it was like the last possible treatment. Then you could prescribe cannabis, etc. All of this regulation, we know them from other markets. All of that changed with the reform that we saw 2024 last year. And the biggest change, though, was within the heads of the society of the people now living in a country that has decriminalization, where it is allowed to consume, where it is allowed to possess, where it is allowed to have up to 3 plants at home for home grow, etc. We see now through the different demographic structure of the society, like from young adults to our elders, that they are trying, that they're consuming, that they're open to it. So this changed the mind of the people on the one side, and then on the other side we have the industry all of a sudden, because we've had the cannabis trend before in the 50s and 60s, etc. also, yes, but there was no industry behind this. Now we have a lot of science, we have a lot of smart minds, we have also, of course, money. Could be more cash flow in the industry, but it is there. It is already $1 billion euro industry, whatever you want to call it. And of course, it was fully in the hand of illicit. So on the one hand, we have now a change in the hands of the society. And then also it comes to light how many consumers we actually have, how many people actually are consuming cannabis, because that was something completely neglected in the dark from the prohibition propaganda. Only outsiders or criminals would consume drugs, you know. So now we also have to change that narrative. And then we have the very ambitious and visionary and revolutionary industry behind it that is driving this forward. And especially in Europe, we can see, but all around the world, but of course I'm here in Europe, so I read the headlines every other month of a new country changing their cannabis regulatory, going from prohibition to decriminalization to partial legalization, now Switzerland, full legalization, etc. Yes, so it's always one domino stone after another. And we are definitely in the middle of a global cannabis renaissance. And I think this is only the beginning. If we look at what happened within a very short period of, let's say, maybe the last 2 to 3 years, where we really saw a boom and a change in the way of how regulators also and the governments think about it. And then on a global scale, how we start to talk about imports and exports and all of this. Yes, I think that this is a very sped up process. And in the next couple of years, we will have a lot of changes, and this market is definitely going to grow so much further than we can expect it right now.
I agree. Absolutely.
Definitely, definitely. And I just want to double back on the financial side of the Renaissance, as you were saying, Heidi. I know we have an event coming up very soon here, and by the time this video comes out, we will have been there. So do you want to tell our audience about the upcoming event and how that contributes to the financial and investment landscape of the UK and EU? Yeah.
Well, Verdant Strategies is hosting a soiree pre-Tallman House event. So we will, on November 9th, we'll be gathering. We curated a list of invited guests, decision makers in the UK. Some in Germany are actually attending too, who will also be attending the Tallman House as members or coming in strictly just for the Verdant Strategies introduction. And the reason why this is so important to me, being here in the UK and aligning with Verdant for this purpose, is that we don't have anyone focused on accountancy and any other consulting services that are focused on financial support strictly for the cannabis space. So bringing this internationalization, bringing this team from the US that is so schooled in understanding how things work and what works, I think the confidence that we are going to create within the companies, the success on their actual goals for exits, mergers, acquisitions, whatever they're seeking, is going to come from, once again, a third party coming in and doing an audit, seeing where the gaps are and tightening up the ship. It will strengthen not only that company, but the entire industry. This is my backyard. I'm very passionate about the UK. We're stuttered, going forward, but we have some excellent companies in working order right now. And this just provides that comfort blanket to their business, so that when the regulators see us working as a true institution, as a true sector, because you have to remember, cannabis has been looked at as a very low class substance. We're flipping it on its head and rebranding it as an upper class normalized health option. And I think when we have health options for people and we give people choices, we're going to increase the product diversity, the businesses that stem from it, and of course the equality across the board, because we're actually we have this chance being a new industry to do all of this. So what better way than to start from the inside of the companies and spread outward with governance at the core? And these people that are coming to our beautiful event are going to be able to meet Rachel in person, her team, and this will be a nice little networking soiree for people to really get the answers that they might have always thought about or maybe never knew that they needed. And I think that having informed understanding of your business structure is only going to lead to success. And I don't think anyone's out here to fail, but we now have structure, like we said, financial architecture. I love that word, because we're creating architecture within your space, and Verdant's done it successfully in the States there and have clients over here already, but now we're going to expand the offering. And I think, you know, besides doing taxes and having the accountancy and the keeping the books straight and narrow, it will give us more clout because we need to win over regulators. And then it trickles into the prescribers and the offerings and the businesses. And we've had massive acquisitions here, you know, with GW and Jazz and EMAC and Rockshaw and Curaleaf. I mean, we've had some really big acquisitions here, and that doesn't mean that it's going to stop there. So if people want to build their companies correctly, I think this is a perfect time to come in. And following on the 9th, we'll be at Tallman House as the title sponsor, which is super exciting, focused on investors and those seeking investment that have been vetted very carefully. And I think these small, intimate gatherings create meaningful connections, and the relationships in this industry are everything. We know that. You know, we met through industry events, probably side chat, you know, we're sitting in an audience and we connected. And I think that's what this industry is about. And there's no better way to describe the cannabis industry as a relationship building experiment. And it really shows that when you meet people face to face, the confidence and trust is where everything starts. From your inner workings to where you're getting your investment from. So I like being able to be in front of people. I think we all do. And we can make wonderful things happen. So that's going to be an exciting November.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to talk about Tallman House as well as an event. So it's essentially, it's the cross section of investors and target companies and all of those advisors surrounding those companies. So I think this is a great opportunity to elevate the conversations, just as you're talking about, you know, at least from a financial perspective. So I'm very much looking forward to that. I love a forum such as this, which is very similar to what Ignite It, I think, is now, which was formerly Benzinga Capital Conference. It merges the two worlds. So I think that I love that. And to your comment, Heidi, but Olivia, how does this help with regulators? How does this give regulators confidence as well when we have, you know, a more sophisticated landscape, a more mature landscape that regulators can rely on for data, numbers?
Yes, I mean, I would say for regulators, of course, it's always very important to let me say it as it is, sell the story. Yes. So that means they need to also prove, of course, the society that they are still caring, that they are still looking after this seemingly risky substance. Yes. So, and it is very important, of course, to tell them, okay, we don't want to support the illicit market. We have a product that is not only brought into the country or cultivated here in the country from compliant companies, but also following compliance standards, which here in Europe are crucial. And of course, if we have companies, for example, that have a financial structure behind it, that may be ready for investment, etc., that gives them credibility, and that gives the whole market credibility. So the legislator, the governments, they know then, okay, we are talking here about an industry of professionals. We are not talking about, I don't know, schemes or kind of sketchy businesses. All that wouldn't work if we are integrating banks, if we have financial solutions, if we have lawyers, if we have financial experts and strategists, etc., all on one table, this speaks for the industry and gives all of us a little bit more credibility.
I love that. So, let's talk about the geographical landscape there in Europe. So I know we'll touch a little bit deeper on Germany in a bit, but how about, say, the Czech Republic? What is going on in Czech Republic in general, and Switzerland's pilot program, the UK, France? We can actually touch on each one of these, probably in depth. Yes.
Yeah, I can give like a little bit of an overview for anyone who's listening that isn't aware, but it's been really big news. There's been movement, and I think when we see the European countries and Switzerland too making these changes, it just sets the precedent that this ball is in motion, and these first mover advantages are very applicable to what's going to happen in the future. I think it's a bit of a crystal ball happening like in front of us because we could see things happening. So the Czech Republic, they approved an amendment in May of 25 that allows adults to grow. And there is a three plant limit, which I'm still unsure of how that is ever governed or enforced. I'm not sure how, people aren't going to people's houses checking to see if they own it. Yeah, no, I don't know. The lawyer would know. And possession, of course, has been increased to 100 grams of flower indoors, 25 grams in public. That possession is no longer criminalized. But the most important thing is that in April of this year, 25 is still happening, GPs or general practitioners can prescribe in the Czech Republic. And that's where there's, we're no longer looking at specialists. So for anyone that isn't aware of how Europe healthcare works, similar to the UK, is GPs do not prescribe in the UK. Specialists who go to school for many years post becoming a general practitioner are the only ones that can then take the other step to become prescriber for cannabis. So it's more steps, and there are less people prescribing because of all of these kind of hurdles. But the fact that GPs can prescribe in the Czech Republic is that's a step forward. And that gives people more opportunity to actually openly talk. Here in the UK, just for comparison's sake, if I mention cannabis in my 5-minute doctor's appointment, which is what you get in a socialized healthcare system, they don't want to hear about it because they don't understand it. They don't want to know. And, this is normalizing. And I think, I hate the stigma word because we live with it, but I think if we normalize it, which means that our pillars of society are prescribing it, that's a big step forward. So I think the Czech Republic is doing all the things right. I did feel like it was a sleeping giant when I went there a few years ago to speak in Prague. I don't know if we were there together, Rachel, but it makes sense to me now to see that this is happening. We were there, Olivia. Yes, we were there. I was like, somebody was with me. Yeah, and I mean, there's still fragmentation and enforcement and market structure, and all these things are coming, but they've taken that step forward. So I think, there is some risk remaining, but I do think this is like a cross-border opportunity for the Czech Republic to become a hub. And I think that's really
I think maybe only one quick note, because in Germany or in Europe in general, if you want to import cannabis flower, for example, from non-EU countries, you need EU GMP. So it is not very likely that you have EU GMP classification already in your facility in, let's say, Thailand. So therefore you need a processing hub here in Europe. Yes. In the past, it was most of the time Portugal, but Portugal now had some compliance issues, and therefore it is a little bit more difficult, let's say it like this. And the Czech Republic, for example, is now the new EU processing player, I would say, standing next in line. So I definitely think that Czech Republic will be very, very interesting in the future.
And it actually invites the ancillary services in because it's strategically positioned to accept them now. So advisors on compliance, on manufacturing, export logistics, financial advisory, banking, all of this is going to rise there. So it's creating a new wave of the economic growth and also the healthcare options. And I think that's like the sweet spot. because more people will have more opportunities, and it will really standardize what we're trying to achieve in other countries. So it's an exciting space.
I also think it's super interesting because what you mentioned with their new law that will, I think it will enter into force 2026.
Yes, 26, yeah.
It is quite the same to what Germany ruled out, yes, with the free plants and home grow and possession of 25 grams in public, 50 grams at home, etc. All of that. So what we predicted, like the professionals of the industry, that Germany will be the first player to legalize cannabis with that game plan, and then later on other European countries, is exactly what is happening. And the Czech Republic just proves that case, yes, that everyone looks to Germany, and in the end, this is, for the most part, most likely the legislation or the provisions that we will see in other countries as well. So it will definitely be interesting to follow what the Germans will also do in regard of amendments, etc. And speaking of, if you want, I can jump right into that and talk a little bit about what is going on right now in Germany, because it is quite interesting. So maybe to give a little bit a picture of the market right now in Germany, I have some numbers here. In 23, before the cannabis reform, we had like 31.4 tons of cannabis that was imported. Then 2024, 72, and till September, like only in 25, we already have like 122 tons of cannabis. So it is like a crazy growth that we have here. It is estimated that maybe this year we will reach 160 tons. But unfortunately, right now we have hit the INCB quota, so therefore we will have to wait what happens. Our authority, the BfArM, the Authority for Medical Devices and Narcotics, etc. They will have to see that we will have a bigger quota till the end of the year, maybe. So importation permits are now, not being granted for now. Formally, we will see, because in the end, if there is a demand, and definitely there is a demand in Germany, then it is medicine. So they have to level up the quota at some point. So no worries for investors here. I think it's a formality. The quotas will be higher, and then let's see where we go 2026. I've heard some numbers that it could reach maybe 250 tons or something like this. So wow. Yes, Germany is a big market. Wow.
It's a huge market.
Yes, it's a huge market. So why is that? Basically because of telemedicine. I think it's as simple as that. We have very easy access. Of course, the changes from the cannabis reform that we have that entered into force last year basically put cannabis out of the Narcotics Act, so it's not considered a narcotic anymore. We have now Medicinal Cannabis Act, so we have a special law for medical cannabis. And it is way easier to prescribe medical cannabis now for practitioners and yes, doctors of any kind. You don't have to have a certain specification, although like dentists and veterinarians are not allowed to. So in Germany, we have now seen over the last couple of months or year a huge trend in telemedicine companies and growth of these companies. We see more and more of them on the market. Usually they have the same way of operating. So they have doctors on their platforms that prescribe via online questionnaire, sometimes video consultation, and patients basically pick their medicine and fill out a form, and then in the end they get the prescription. It gets sent to a connected pharmacy, and then the pharmacy delivers the medicine within a short period of time. In some bigger cities, through this procedure, you can do this maybe in 1 to 3 hours and get your cannabis delivered very quickly, therefore. So this makes it, of course, very easy accessible for everyone, also in rural areas. And it is, I think, it is a truth everyone knows that through that, a lot of consumers, not only patients, also entered the market. And because of this, the government in Germany went more and more critical of the telemedicine platforms and said, okay, we have to tighten the provisions and rules around that. This is actually not what we want to support. So on 8th of October, so quite recently, the Federal Cabinet approved amendments to the MedKG. Of course, still it has to go through the whole legislative procedure, so changes can happen. Yes, it's not fixed yet, but it is likely that this provisions will enter into force. They basically say that for the initial consultation, you need an in-person appointment with a doctor for prescribing you cannabis, and then for follow-up prescriptions, you need one in-person appointment every 4 quarters. And then they also have a ban, which I think is like, I don't agree with that kind of provision at all, a ban for mail order shipping of cannabis flowers. Because they argue that you need further consultation inside of the pharmacy with, a pharmacist explaining you the medicine, etc. But technically, there's no need for an in-person consultation. That could also be done over telemedicine, for example, or other non-in-person consultation options on the phone or something like that. But right now, this is where we stand. So, of course, there is a risk that I would say for the maybe first couple of weeks of this new law and provision entering into force, that the market will have a little setback, let's say it like this. But of course, we're talking about a professional industry, we're talking about telemedicine, we're talking about companies. There will always be a way. Yes, this is definitely harmful for those patients that actually need an easy access over telemedicine, that need online prescription methods or mail order shipping, etc., because they live maybe in rural areas, or they, like Heidi mentioned, it is also hard to, within the public health care system, to have an appointment, to find a practitioner that is willing to prescribe you cannabis, etc. Same here, even though we also have medical cannabis till 2017. If you don't find a doctor that is used to prescribing cannabis, or is aware and knows what he can prescribe and for which conditions, etc., most of the time they will not. So it is not easy to have access, and of course these platforms also provide access to doctors that are willing to prescribe in the first place. So all of this would be then more difficult, but I advise my telemedicine clients to already set up Plan B structures. There will be no other way than let's say it like this. Telemedicine will always be there. Maybe it will be a little bit harder for the telemedicine companies to provide their services, and of course they should also, this is what I always advise them, keep patient interests in mind. That is very important. I think you can provide this kind of services with patient interests also being provided. But in the end, like the legislator thinks it's done, like, again, prohibition style, without considering that this might be a little bit more harmful than useful. This is, from my opinion, not the way to go. And in the end, it will not change anything for the future of the German cannabis market. And then also we will see what that means again for the European, Germany as the European blueprint, let's say, what that means for the other European countries when they're following or not following maybe at some point the provisions of Germany, because they don't make sense.
Love that. So we actually have to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. I have a call starting in 5. So,
Now,
so we're gonna wrap up. Just looking down, and I know we could definitely have an awesome chat forever. Let's just touch on France for 2 minutes, and then we can kind of do some closing remarks and wrap up.
I could give a little bit of a French update. I was just there. There was a change. Well, the government was a little disassembled and a lot, and they were getting a new government in, or a new governing body. And with that being said, there was also a movement to remove flower from the medical cannabis pilot program, which served about 3,000 French patients, medical cannabis in flower form. So the reason why is because it matched the illicit markets visually, and they want to change it. I do think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea to drop patients like that. And I do know there's some interim services. And I know Maria Sanchez, who's a wonderful lawyer in France, mentioned this, and I cannot remember the facts, but I believe she found a way to be able to support some of these patients that are on the pilot program for cannabis there to get their product. But I do know a lot of patients that are also without. That being said, there's some uncertainty. There's new regulations and compliance hurdles to go over, and there are also more costs involved. So for those who are producing, thinking it was going to be a flower market, have to pivot. But I think that's a lesson in everything. We have to be able to pivot, and we have to build our companies with structure. Olivia and I were talking about this earlier, that you have the financial capability to pivot, and you are planning to pivot, because this is an industry where you are not sure you're going to be going in the same direction when you wake up in the morning, because something could change. And I think those contingency plans have to include legal and financial structures, supports, and planning stages to be ready for anything, to make failure as not an option. And know who your friends are, know that you can collaborate with other companies, know that you have partnerships that will uphold you, diversify your portfolio. There are all these things. So when you have a big jar to the system, the telemedicine changed the French market on their product distribution, and the product administration options. We have to learn how to be able to take these hits and still stand. And we're still standing now. So I appreciate that we have to go, but yes, we could talk about this all day.
No, definitely. I think staying nimble is, you have to stay nimble in a new industry. I think that's really, really important to be able to pivot. And you have to have your eye on the ball in order to do that, right? And
100%.
if you want to know the good actors in the industry, reach out to these ladies here, Heidi and Olivia. They've been out around for a number of years, and it's really important to know who's who, what's what. Trusted advisors, surrounding yourself with trusted folks is very, very important, because as we can see, industries can start, and they are usually started on a very shaky foundation, as all new emerging industries are. So it's invaluable to know who to work with. So definitely reach out to Heidi, reach out to Olivia. And how do we find you online?
I'm on LinkedIn, Heidi Whitman. It's very easy to find me. And of course, the EmpowHer Cannabis Society has access to all of us women. So if you go onto our LinkedIn there, you can always request a call or anything else like that, that you need right there. LinkedIn is a good source. Or Heidi Whitman, Heidi-Whitman.com.
Awesome. How about you, Olivia?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn as well. And via LinkedIn, there are also the rest of my socials over my website. It has like a very German name, like Kanzlei-Ewenike.de. It's like law firm -Ewenike. So therefore, LinkedIn, and there everything is linked.
I searched your name before I found your law firm. So
yes, that should also be easy.
You are searchable.
I am searchable. Yes.
We're very searchable. You can find us. Absolutely.
Well,
Thank you so much.
I look forward to seeing you both.
Thank you
so much. And
thank you too.
Take care. And
thank you, Rachel.
Thank
and thank you for your brothers. Appreciate it.
Definitely.